Captain Lee Daeho stood on the bridge of the Harmony's edge, staring at the dark screen in front of him. The ship had been traveling through deep space for 3 months now, far beyond any human colony. They were looking for new worlds, new life, new chances for humanity to grow among the stars. "Captain," said Dr. Park So-young from her station. She was the ship's expert on alien life and communications. Her voice sounded worried. "I'm not picking up any signals from the Kepler 442 system." Daeho walked over to her station. "What do you mean? No signals at all?" "Nothing, sir. No radio waves, no data streams, no communications of any kind. But look at this." She pointed to her screen. It showed the star system ahead of them. Around the main star, huge structures floated in space. Metal rings circled the star like giant bracelets. Massive stations hung in the darkness between planets. Commander Kim Tae-jin, the ship's military officer, joined them. He was a serious man who always thought about danger first. "Those structures look artificial. Someone built them." "That's what worries me," So-young said. "These structures are huge. Bigger than anything humans have ever built. They must have taken thousands of years to make." But there's complete silence. Engineer Choi Min-ho looked up from his control panel. He was young but very smart with machines. "Captain, my sensors show the structures are working. They have power flowing through them. Some kind of energy I've never seen before." Navigator Yoon Hae-ri was checking the star maps on her screen. She had guided ships through space for years and knew every major trade route. "Sir, this system should be busy. It's right on the path between 3 major star regions. Ships should be coming and going all the time." Daeho felt a cold feeling in his stomach. In all his years exploring space, he had never seen anything like this. Advanced structures that clearly showed intelligent life, but no one talking to anyone else. "How long until we reach the system?" he asked. 2 days at current speed," Hae-ri replied. "Dr. So-young, keep scanning for any kind of communication, even the smallest signal." "Yes, sir." For the next 2 days, the crew watched their screens carefully. The structures grew larger as they got closer. They could see details now that made their mouths hang open. The metal rings around the star were collecting its energy. Space stations the size of small moons hung in perfect formation. Ships moved between the structures, but they were unlike any ships humans had ever seen. They looked like they were grown rather than built, with smooth curves like living things. "Captain," Min-ho called out, "I'm reading massive energy signatures. These people have technology we can only dream about. But still no communications?" Daeho asked. So-young shook her head. "Nothing. It's like they don't talk to each other at all." Tae-jin was studying the tactical display. "Sir, I've been watching the ship movements. They have patterns, very organized patterns, but no radio chatter, no data exchanges between ships. How do they coordinate?" "Maybe they use a type of communication we can't detect," So-young suggested. As they entered the outer edge of the system, something strange happened. The alien ships began to change direction. They weren't heading toward the human ship, but they were clearly aware of it. "They know we're here," Tae-jin said. "Are they hostile?" Daeho asked. "I don't think so. They're not moving to attack." "But they're definitely watching us." Hae-ri pointed to her navigation screen. "Captain, look at this. Every time we change course, some of their ships adjust their positions too. They're tracking our every move." So-young tried again to send a simple greeting message on all frequencies. Radio waves, light signals, even basic mathematical sequences. The response was always the same. Nothing. "It's like shouting into a cave and hearing no echo," she said. The crew worked through the night, trying to understand what they were seeing. Min-ho discovered that the alien technology used energy sources that seemed impossible. Tae-jin noted that their ship formations followed military precision, but without any command signals he could detect. Hae-ri mapped the system and found it was perfectly organized, with shipping lanes and traffic patterns that would make human space traffic controllers jealous. But the silence continued. On the 3rd day in the system, So-young made a discovery that chilled everyone to the bone. "Captain, I've been analyzing the electromagnetic spectrum around the system. There are traces of old communications, very old, from maybe 1,000 years ago." "What kind of communications?" "Distress signals. Hundreds of them. All in different languages from different species. They were all asking for help." Daeho felt his hands grow cold. "What happened to them?" "The signals just stop. All at once. Like someone turned off a switch." The bridge became very quiet. Everyone stared at their screens, thinking about what this meant. "Sir," Tae-jin said quietly, "I think we should leave. Now." But before Deho could answer, Hyri gasped. "Captain, we have a problem. I can't access our long-range communications. Something is blocking our signal back to Earth." Minho checked his systems. "She's right. All our communication arrays are being jammed. We can't send any messages out of this system." So Young's face went pale. "Captain, what if the silence isn't their choice? What if something is making them stay quiet?" Deho looked around at his crew. They were brave people who had volunteered to explore the unknown. But now they were trapped in a system where an advanced civilization lived in complete silence, and something was preventing them from calling for help. "Keep monitoring everything," he ordered, "and prepare for anything." Outside the ship, the alien vessels continued their silent dance through space, watching the small human ship that had stumbled into their quiet world. Captain Lee Deho watched the main screen as more alien ships appeared around them. They moved like fish swimming in perfect formation, never bumping into each other, never making a sound. The Harmony's edge felt very small among these giants. "Dr. So Young, try every communication method we have," Deho ordered. So Young's fingers flew over her controls. She sent radio signals on every frequency humans knew about. She flashed the ship's lights in simple patterns. She even tried old Earth languages, thinking maybe these aliens had been watching humanity for a long time. Nothing worked. The alien ships continued their silent dance around them. Engineer Minho looked worried as he checked his systems. "Captain, our quantum communicator is getting strange readings. It's like something is actively fighting against our signals." "Fighting them how?" "Every time I try to send a message back to Earth, something interferes. It's not random interference. It's too precise, too smart. Something is deliberately stopping us from talking to home." Commander Tae-jin was studying the tactical display. "Sir, I count 47 alien vessels around us now. They appeared from nowhere. Our sensors didn't detect them approaching. Stealth technology? Maybe. Or they were hiding in those big structures and came out when we arrived." Navigator Hayri was working on the star charts.
"Captain, I've been thinking about what Dr. So Young found."
"Those old distress signals from different species."
"What if this has happened before?"
"What do you mean? What if other explorer ships have come here just like us? And what if they all got trapped the same way?" The thought made everyone on the bridge go quiet. Were they just the latest in a long line of ships that had wandered into this silent trap? Dr. So Young suddenly straightened up at her station. "Captain, I'm detecting something new. There's a massive structure directly ahead. It wasn't there before." On the main screen, a huge space station appeared. It was bigger than any human city, with towers that stretched out like arms. The alien ships around them began moving toward it. "Are they taking us there?" Deho asked. "It looks like it," Tae-jin replied. "We're being escorted, not attacked. But we don't have much choice about where we're going." As they got closer to the station, Minho discovered something that made his heart race. "Captain, this station is old. Really old. My scans show it's been here for thousands of years. But it's still working perfectly. How is that possible? The technology is beyond anything we understand. It's like it repairs itself." So Young was running new scans on the station. "I'm picking up life signs inside. Lots of them. Different species from what I can tell." "Different species?" Deho asked. "You mean there are other aliens in there besides the ones flying these ships?" "Yes, sir. The readings show at least 5 different biological signatures." Harry looked up from her navigation console. "Captain, we're being guided to a docking port. The alien ships are positioning us for landing." "Any choice in the matter?" "No, sir. Our engines aren't responding properly. Something is controlling our ship." Deho felt helpless as his ship was gently pulled toward the massive station. Whatever these aliens wanted, they were being very careful not to hurt the humans. But they were also making sure the humans had no choice but to come aboard. The docking process was unlike anything they had experienced. The station seemed to reach out with invisible hands and pull their ship into a perfect landing. No bumps, no scraping, just a smooth connection. "Atmosphere readings?" Deho asked. Minho checked his sensors. "The docking bay has air we can breathe. Temperature is comfortable. It's like they prepared for us. Or they prepared for any species that might show up," Tae-jin said grimly. So Young was still trying to send messages. "Captain, I've tried everything. Our communications are completely blocked. We can't tell Earth what's happening to us." Through the ship's windows, they could see the docking bay. It was enormous, with spaces for ships much larger than theirs. Some of the docking ports were occupied by vessels they didn't recognize. Ships with strange designs made from materials that seemed to glow with their own light. Those ships, Harry whispered. They're not like the ones that escorted us here. Tae-jin was studying them through the tactical scanner. Different designs, different technology. I think they belong to other species and other prisoners. Daeho wondered. Before anyone could answer, the main screen flickered. Instead of showing the docking bay, it now showed the inside of the station. A figure appeared on screen. It was humanoid, but clearly not human. Its skin was pale blue and its eyes were larger than human eyes. When it spoke, the words came through the ship's communication system in perfect English. Welcome, travelers from the third planet of the Sol system. I am Morthek of the Velkari. Please do not be afraid. We mean you no harm. The bridge crew stared at the screen. After days of silence, finally someone was talking to them. You can understand us? So Young asked. We have been listening to your transmissions for many years. We learned your languages. We know about your species. Why didn't you answer our calls? Daeho asked. Morthek's expression became sad. Because we cannot. Because no one can. Come aboard our station and we will explain everything. But first you must understand one thing. You can never leave this system. What do you mean? Daeho demanded. Your ship was detected the moment it entered our space. You have been marked. If you try to leave, you will be destroyed. Marked by who? By those who watch the galaxy. Those who demand silence from all who live among the stars. The screen went dark, leaving the crew of the Harmony's Edge staring at each other in shock. Captain, Minho said quietly. What do we do now? Daeho looked at his crew. They had come out here to explore, to find new life and new worlds. Instead, they had found a trap that had caught who knows how many other species before them. We go aboard, he said finally. We need answers. And maybe, just maybe, we can find a way out of this. But deep in his heart, he wondered if they would ever see Earth again. The airlock opened with a soft hiss and Captain Lee Daeho stepped onto the alien station with his crew behind him. The corridor was huge, with walls that seemed to glow with soft light. The air smelled clean but strange, like metal and flowers mixed together. Morthek was waiting for them. He was tall and thin, with blue skin that had silver markings running down his arms. His large eyes showed kindness but also deep sadness. Welcome to Haven Station, he said. His voice was soft but carried easily in the large space. Follow me, please. There is much you need to know. As they walked through the corridors, Dr. So-young noticed other beings moving around them. Some looked similar to Morthek, but others were completely different. One group had fur covering their bodies and walked on 4 legs. Another species was very short with skin that looked like rock. How many different species are here? She asked. 43, Morthek replied. All refugees. All hiding. Hiding from what? Commander Tae-jin asked. Morthek stopped walking and turned to face them. From the Celestial Dominion, the rulers of this galaxy. He led them into a large room with a dome ceiling that showed the stars outside. In the center was a table surrounded by chairs made for different body types. Morthek gestured for them to sit. Your species is young, he began. You have only been traveling between stars for a few hundred years. But this galaxy is very old and it has rulers you have never imagined. Engineer Minho leaned forward. What kind of rulers? The Celestial Dominion is not a single species. It is a collective mind that spans many dimensions. It exists partly in our reality and partly in spaces we cannot see or understand. Navigator Hairi looked confused. A collective mind? Like a hive? More than that. The Dominion can join minds together across vast distances. When a species is absorbed by the Dominion, they lose their individual thoughts. They become part of something larger, but they are no longer themselves. Dr. So-young felt a chill run down her spine. What does this have to do with the silence? Morthek touched a control panel, and the dome above them showed images of space, but not empty space. Space filled with ships and stations and signs of life. This is what our galaxy looked like 50,000 years ago, he said. Thousands of species all talking to each other, sharing knowledge, building together. The image changed. Now the space looked darker, emptier. This is what it looks like now. The Dominion found us through our communications. Radio waves, quantum signals, all the ways species talk to each other across space. The Dominion follows these signals like a hunter follows tracks. Captain Daeho stood up and walked closer to the display. How does it work? When the Dominion finds a species, they send representatives. These representatives offer a choice. Join the collective willingly or be forced to join. Those who refuse face complete destruction. But you're still here, Taejin pointed out. You survived. By giving up everything that made us who we were, Morthek said sadly. We stopped all communications between our worlds. We hid our ships. We became silent ghosts living in the shadows between stars. Minho was thinking about what he had seen in the system. The ships we saw, the ones that escorted us here, they belong to species that joined the Dominion. Yes, they still exist, but they are not truly alive anymore. They follow the Dominion's will without question. They have forgotten what it means to think for themselves. So Young asked the question they were all thinking. What about Earth? What about humanity? Morthek looked at her with those large, sad eyes. Your species has been growing louder each year. Your radio signals, your quantum communications, your expansion into space. The Dominion has noticed. The room became very quiet. Everyone was thinking about home, about the billions of people on Earth who had no idea what was coming. How long do we have? Taeho asked. Your planet will receive visitors within 6 of your months, maybe less. Harry stood up quickly. We have to warn them. We have to get back to Earth. You cannot, Morthek said gently. Your ship has been detected by Dominion scouts. If you leave this system, they will follow you straight to your home world. You would lead them directly to Earth. So we're trapped here, Taejin said. Yes, as are we all. Dr. So-Young was studying the data on her portable scanner. Morthek, you said the Dominion exists partly in other dimensions. What did you mean? The collective mind uses quantum space to connect thoughts across the galaxy. This is how they maintain control over so many species across such vast distances. And that's how they detect communications. Yes. Any quantum signal creates ripples in the spaces they inhabit. They feel these ripples like vibrations in a spider's web. Minho suddenly got excited. Wait, if they use quantum space for their collective mind, what happens if that space gets disrupted? Morthek looked surprised. Disrupted? What do you mean? On Earth, we've been experimenting with quantum interference. We can create quantum noise that disrupts quantum communications. What if we could scale that up? You would need massive amounts of quantum interference, more than any single ship could generate. Daeho was starting to understand. But what if it wasn't a single ship? What if it was coordinated across multiple locations? The Dominion would detect such preparations. They would stop you before you could act. So-Young looked up from her scanner. Not if we stayed silent while we prepared. Not if we learned to hide like you do. Morthek stared at them. You cannot mean to fight the Dominion. They have conquered thousands of species over millions of years. Maybe, Daeho said, but those species were alone when they faced the Dominion. What if humanity wasn't alone? What if we had help from species who know how to stay hidden? You would risk everything. If you fail, your entire species will be destroyed or absorbed. Taejin smiled grimly. From what you've told us, that's going to happen anyway. At least this way, we go down fighting. For the first time since they had met him, Morthek looked hopeful. You would really try this? Even knowing you might fail. Humans don't like being told what to do, Harry said. Even by cosmic beings. Morthek was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, There is something you should know. Something we discovered long ago but never had the courage to use. What? The Dominion's greatest strength is also their greatest weakness. Their collective mind depends on quantum coherence across dimensions. If that coherence is broken, the collective mind falls apart, Minho finished. Yes. But it would require a type of quantum disruption that only comes from chaotic, individual thought patterns, the kind that exist in species who refuse to join collective minds. Dr. So-Young looked at her crewmates. Individual thought patterns. Like human minds. Like human minds. Morthek agreed. Captain Daeho felt something he hadn't felt since entering the system. Hope. Morthek, he said, I think it's time we stopped hiding. Back on Earth, President Han Dong-wook sat in the emergency meeting room deep beneath the capital city. Around the table were the most important people in the United Earth Federation. The message from the Harmony's Edge had arrived just hours ago, transmitted in a single burst of compressed data that had taken their best computers hours to decode. General O.J. Sung placed a datapad on the table. Mr. President, we've confirmed the information from Captain Daeho's ship. Long-range sensors have detected massive structures moving toward our solar system. They'll arrive in approximately 5 months. Dr. Lim Yo-jin, the Federation's top weapons scientist, looked pale. The quantum signatures match what the Harmony's Edge reported. These aren't ships as we understand them. They're something else entirely. What are our options? The president asked. 3 possibilities, General Jae-sung replied. First, we surrender immediately and hope this celestial dominion treats us well. Second, we try to fight with conventional weapons. Third, we implement what Captain Daeho suggested in his message. Explain the third option. Dr. Yojin activated a holographic display, Operation Silent Thunder. We fragment humanity across the galaxy in small hidden groups. Each group stays silent, but carries quantum interference devices. When the Dominion arrives, we activate all devices simultaneously. And you think this will work? The theory is sound, she said. The Dominion's collective mind exists in quantum space. If we generate enough quantum chaos at the same time, we might disrupt their consciousness network. Admiral Shin Woo-jin, who commanded the space fleet, looked skeptical. Dr. Yojin, you're talking about scattering millions of people across known space with no way to communicate with each other. How do we coordinate something like that? We don't coordinate it in the traditional sense. Each group will have a timing device synchronized to Earth's atomic clocks. On a predetermined date and time, they activate their quantum devices whether they hear from anyone else or not. President Dong-wook stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see people going about their normal lives, not knowing that their entire species faced extinction. How many people would we need to evacuate? He asked. At least 50 million, General Jae-sung replied, spread across as many systems as possible. The more locations we can hit simultaneously, the better our chances. And the people who stay on Earth? Dr. Yojin looked down at her hands. Earth will be the primary target. We'll turn our entire communication and quantum network into a massive interference bomb. Everyone who stays will be part of the final signal. You're talking about suicide, Admiral Woo-jin said. Maybe, Dr. Yojin replied, but if we do nothing, we definitely die. At least this way we have a chance. Meanwhile, in the Kepler 442 system, Captain Daeho was working with Morthek and the other refugee species to plan their part in Operation Silent Thunder. The alien station had become a hive of activity, as beings who had hidden for thousands of years began preparing to fight back. Dr. So-young was in the station's laboratory, working with scientists from 6 different species. The quantum interference devices need to be small enough to hide but powerful enough to disrupt dimensional space, she explained to her translator device. A creature that looked like a walking crystal formation responded through its own translator. My people developed quantum resonance technology before the Dominion found us. We can make the devices you need. Engineer Minho was learning how the station's stealth technology worked. The Velkari engineer teaching him looked almost exactly like Morthek, but with green markings instead of silver. The key is quantum masking, the engineer explained. We make our ships appear to be natural phenomena. Asteroids, gas clouds, cosmic dust. The Dominion's scouts ignore us because we look like part of the environment. Can you teach human ships to do this? Yes, but it requires significant modifications to your technology. And once you use it, you can never communicate normally again. The masking interferes with all quantum communications. Commander Tai-jin was working with the station's military tacticians. They had been studying Dominion behavior for thousands of years. The Dominion does not expect resistance, explained a being that looked like a giant insect. They have conquered so many species that they believe conquest is inevitable. This is their weakness. How so? They do not guard against attacks from within their controlled territory. If we can position our forces in systems they already control, we can strike at the heart of their network. Navigator Hyri was learning about Dominion patrol patterns from a species that had been observing them for centuries. The beings looked like octopi but with metallic skin. They follow predictable routes, one of them explained. Every 1,000 years they sweep through each sector of the galaxy, checking on their controlled species. They just finished their sweep of this region, which means they won't return for another millennium, unless something alerts them. Exactly, which is why your plan must work on the first try. There will be no second chance. Back on Earth, the evacuation had begun. But it wasn't called an evacuation. The government told people it was the largest colonization effort in human history. Volunteers were needed to establish new settlements in distant star systems. Dr. Bae Kyung-mi was working around the clock to modify Earth's quantum communication network. Every satellite, every deep space transmitter, Every quantum relay station was being secretly converted into part of a massive interference array. The modifications are almost complete, she reported to Dr. Yojin. When we activate the system, it will generate more quantum noise than has ever been created by a single species. Will it be enough? We'll find out. An Subin, a young communications officer, was helping coordinate the secret messages being sent to the evacuation ships. Each ship received identical information: coordinates for a hiding spot, instructions for the quantum devices, and a countdown timer. "How many ships have we sent out?" she asked. 8,000 so far, her supervisor replied. Each carrying between 5 and 10,000 people. They're spreading across 200 star systems. And they all know what they're supposed to do. They know. On the designated day, at the designated time, they activate their devices, no matter what else is happening, no matter who tries to stop them. In the Kepler 442 system, Captain Deho stood with Mortek on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. "Are you sure about this?" Mortek asked. "Your species could hide here with us. You could survive in silence." Deho shook his head. "That's not living. That's just existing. If we can't be free to speak, to communicate, to reach out to other species, then what's the point of surviving? The Dominion has existed for millions of years. What makes you think you can defeat something that ancient and powerful?" "Maybe we can't," Deho admitted. "But we're going to try. And maybe that's what makes us different from all the other species they've conquered. Maybe we're just too stubborn to give up." Mortek was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I have been thinking about what you said, about individual thought patterns disrupting the collective mind. What about it? There is something unique about human consciousness. We have been studying your crew's brain patterns. Human thoughts are more chaotic than any species we have encountered, more unpredictable. Is that good or bad? For fighting a collective mind that depends on order and predictability? It might be exactly what we need." Through the observation window, they could see the first of the human evacuation ships arriving at the station. Thousands of people who had volunteered to leave Earth forever, to hide in the darkness between stars, all for the chance to strike back at an enemy they had never seen. "Mr. President," General Jae-sung said as he entered the situation room on Earth, "we've received word from all evacuation fleets. They're in position." President Dong-wook looked at the countdown timer on the wall. 24 hours until activation. And the Dominion fleet? 3 days out from Earth. So we'll know if our plan worked before they arrive. "Yes, sir." The president looked around the room at the people who would stay on Earth to the end. "Ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow we find out if humanity can think its way out of slavery." The countdown timer reached 0 at exactly noon, Earth time. Across the galaxy, in hidden ships scattered among 200 star systems, humans pressed activation buttons on devices they barely understood. On Earth, Dr. Bae Kyung-mi entered the final command that turned the planet's entire communication network into a quantum interference bomb. In the Kepler 442 system, Captain Deho stood beside Mortek as they watched the quantum reading spike to levels no one had ever seen before. "It's working," Dr. So-young called out from her station. "Quantum interference is building across multiple dimensional layers." For the first few minutes, nothing seemed to happen. The alien ships controlled by the Dominion continued their silent patrols. The massive structures around the star kept functioning as they had for thousands of years. Then something changed. One of the Dominion ships suddenly stopped moving. It just hung in space, motionless. Then another ship stopped. And another. "What's happening to them?" Engineer Minho asked. Mortek was staring at his instruments in amazement. "The quantum interference is working. The Dominion's control signals are being disrupted." Across the galaxy, the same thing was happening. Dominion-controlled ships suddenly found themselves without orders. For the first time in thousands of years, the beings inside those ships began to remember what it felt like to think for themselves. On Earth, President Dong-wook watched as massive vessels appeared at the edge of the solar system. The Dominion fleet had arrived, but something was wrong with them too. Instead of moving in perfect formation toward Earth, they seemed confused, directionless. "Sir," General Jae-sung reported, "we're receiving transmissions from the approaching fleet, but they're not what we expected." "What kind of transmissions?" "They're asking for help. The crews inside those ships are saying they don't know where they are or how they got there." Dr. Yojin was monitoring the quantum interference levels. "The collective mind is breaking down. The chaos we generated is spreading through their dimensional network faster than they can compensate for it. In space stations across the galaxy, beings who had been part of the Dominion Collective for centuries suddenly found themselves alone in their own minds again. They remembered their home worlds, their families, their dreams from before they were absorbed. The effect was spreading like wildfire through quantum space. Navigator Hyri was tracking the interference patterns from the Valkyrie station. The quantum disruption is following the Dominion's own network pathways. It's using their system against them. Commander Tae Jin was watching the tactical displays. The Dominion ships aren't attacking anymore. They're just floating there. Morthek turned to Captain Daeho with tears in his large eyes. It's working. After 50,000 years of silence, it's actually working. But the real surprise came when Dr. So Young detected something new on her communications array. Captain, I'm receiving signals. Thousands of them. From all across the galaxy. What kind of signals? Communications. Radio transmissions, quantum messages, data streams. Species that have been silent for millennia are starting to talk again. The main screen lit up with incoming messages. Most were in languages no human had ever heard, but the translation computers were working overtime to decode them. This is the Zephyrian Republic. We are free. How is this possible? Korthak Defense Fleet requesting status update. Collective mind no longer responding. This is impossible. We have been slaves for 3,000 years. Who did this? And then, from very close by, a familiar voice. This is Admiral Shin Woo Jin of the United Earth Federation. All human evacuation fleets report status. One by one, the hidden human ships reported in. They were safe. The quantum devices had worked, and the interference was still spreading. All ships. Admiral Woo Jin's voice came through clearly. You are free to break communications. Silence. Operation Silent Thunder has succeeded. Captain Daeho felt something he hadn't felt in months. Joy. Mr. Morthek, I believe your people can stop hiding now. But even as the galaxy celebrated, Dr. Yo Jin on Earth was discovering something troubling. Mr. President, the quantum interference is continuing to spread. We can't shut it down. Is that a problem? We don't know. We've never seen quantum disruption on this scale before. As it turned out, the continuing interference was the best thing that could have happened. The Dominion's collective consciousness wasn't just disrupted, it was completely destroyed. The entity that had ruled the galaxy for millions of years simply ceased to exist, scattered into quantum noise by the chaotic thoughts of humanity. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy began to wake up. Species that had been enslaved for thousands of years started rebuilding their civilizations. Ships began moving freely between star systems again. The great silence that had lasted for 50 millennia was over. The Valkyrie came out of hiding and began teaching other species how to detect and resist collective mind influences. The Zephyrians shared their knowledge of faster-than-light communication. Dozens of other species contributed their own technologies and wisdom. Captain Daeho and his crew finally returned to Earth 6 months later, but they found a very different world than the one they had left. Humanity was no longer alone in the galaxy. Earth had become the meeting place for dozens of species who wanted to thank the humans for giving them back their freedom. Dr. So Young established the first intergalactic communications center on Earth's moon. Navigator Hyri became the head of the new Galactic Navigation Service. Engineer Minho worked with alien scientists to develop technology that combined the best of dozens of different species. Commander Taijin founded the Galactic Defense Alliance, a group dedicated to making sure nothing like the Dominion could ever rise again. And Morthek, the Valkyrie who had spent thousands of years in hiding, became the first ambassador to the new Galactic Council. You know, he said to Captain Daeho at the first council meeting, when we detected your ship entering our system, we thought it was just another species coming to be enslaved. We never imagined that you would be the ones to free us all. Daeho smiled. We're just stubborn. We don't like being told what to do, even by cosmic beings. Your stubbornness saved the galaxy. Maybe. But it was your knowledge that made it possible, and the courage of everyone who chose to fight instead of hiding. The galaxy was noisy again. Radio signals, quantum transmissions, and data streams flowed between thousands of star systems. Species shared stories, knowledge, and dreams for the future. And at the center of it all was a small blue planet whose people had refused to be silent, and in doing so had given voice to an entire galaxy. The great silence was over. The age of communication had begun again. Navigator Hyrie made the final entry in the Harmony's Edge mission log. We came looking for new worlds and new life. We found something better. We found that the universe is full of friends we just hadn't met yet. In the end, humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their weapons. It was something much simpler. They refused to stop talking even when the most powerful force in the galaxy told them to be quiet. And sometimes, that's exactly what the universe needs.